After 12 years of marriage, I found a second phone hidden in his car. When I confronted him, he whispered, "She's young and doesn't nag like you." That night, I cashed out his secret savings and left a note saying, "Enjoy the silence." He returned home screaming my name, but all he found was 12 years of marriage. That's what we had. That's what I thought we had anyway. We lived in a 2-story house in Gahanna, just outside Columbus, Ohio. It wasn't fancy, but it was home. Mark and I met when we were both 27. I was a high school English teacher, and he was just starting out as a CPA. We built a life slowly. A dog, a mortgage, 2 cars, and Friday night takeout. We had our routines, our habits. It felt solid. Until the day it didn't. It started with little things. He was checking his phone more, turning the screen away when I walked in, working late, more than usual. He'd come home with that worn-out look, but with something behind his eyes. Something distant. Like his mind was somewhere else. One Tuesday afternoon, I needed to drop off some paperwork at the school district office. My car was low on gas, so I took his. It was just supposed to be a quick drive. I opened the glove box to grab sunglasses. That's when I felt it. A phone, one I didn't recognize. It was an old iPhone. No case. No lock screen. My stomach dropped before I even turned it on. I didn't want to look, but I had to. The home screen lit up. Messages from someone named Lily. Heart emojis. Last night was amazing. I can't wait till you leave her. Photos. Her face. Her body. I felt my hands go cold. I don't remember how long I sat there in the parking lot reading through everything. My world cracked open right there in the driver's seat. That night, I waited until after dinner. I didn't want to make a scene, not yet. We ate in silence. I couldn't even look at him. Afterward, he sat on the couch flipping through channels. I stood in front of him and held out the phone. Just like that. He didn't even try to lie. He just stared at me. Then he leaned back, like he didn't care at all, and said in this dead cold voice, "She's young and doesn't nag like you." That's all he said.
No è paleghi. Nos cham.
Like I was the problem. Like 12 years meant nothing. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the phone. I walked away, went into our bedroom, and locked the door. I sat on the floor next to our bed and stared at the closet. Something inside me snapped that night, not in a loud way, but like something deep finally broke. I barely slept. I lay there, staring at the ceiling while he snored in the next room. The next morning, I got up before him. I knew he'd be gone by 8 o'clock. He still had that fake routine to keep up. Once he left, I sat down at my laptop. Years ago, when we bought the house, he set up joint savings accounts. But a few years after that, I noticed random amounts moving into a separate account with his name only. I had never brought it up. He always handled the money, and I thought I could trust him. Not anymore. I logged into his banking app. He was lazy, used the same password for everything. His secret account had just over $42,000 in it. He'd been stashing it away, probably planning to leave me and start a new life with her. So I moved every last cent into my personal savings. Then I pulled out the emergency cash we kept in the fireproof box under the bed, packed 2 suitcases, grabbed the documents, the dog, and left the rest. Before I left, I placed a sticky note on the fridge. All it said was, "Enjoy the silence." I drove straight to Asheville, North Carolina. We had gone there years ago for an anniversary trip. I remembered liking the town. It felt peaceful. I stayed at a cheap Airbnb for a while. Max, our dog, stayed by my side like he could sense something big had changed. He was all I had, and I wasn't about to let Mark get custody of him too. Within a month, I found a small apartment on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I used some of that $42,000 to open a tiny bookstore. It had always been a dream I never followed. I figured, screw it. If my whole life had to start over, it was going to start on my terms. I heard from neighbors a few days after I left. Mark had come home that night and found the note. He lost it. They said he ran through the house yelling my name, ripping open closets and drawers, screaming into the backyard. He called me 15 times that night. I didn't answer. Then he emailed, messaged on Facebook, even sent a long text begging me to talk like adults. He said, "You overreacted." He said, "It was just a fling." He said, "She doesn't mean anything to me." And finally, "Come home. We can fix this." I didn't answer. I blocked every number. He tried to show up at my sister's house 2 towns over. She told him to leave, or she'd call the cops.
He left.
2 months later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. It was from Lily. She found out I took the money. She said Mark blamed me for everything. Said I stole from him. She called me a bitter old hag. She said I ruined their future. I laughed. A week after that, I got served. Mark filed a lawsuit claiming I stole marital assets. He wanted half of what I took, even though it was his secret stash. My lawyer didn't flinch. She was sharp, and she'd seen it all before. She found every transfer he'd made behind my back and flipped it on him. Said he committed financial infidelity, and we had the messages and timestamps to prove it. The case dragged for 4 months. In the end, the judge ruled that I could keep everything I'd taken, and he had to pay part of my legal fees.
He lost.
Again. A few months after the court ruling, I was working late in the bookstore when a customer dropped by just before closing. She was maybe mid-30s, dressed in business casual, holding a leather notebook. She didn't look like a regular shopper. "I've read your blog," she said, before I could even greet her. I blinked. "I don't have a blog." She smiled. "Not anymore. But that Medium piece you posted after the trial? It went viral. I work with a small publishing house in Atlanta. Have you ever thought about writing a book?" I didn't know what to say. I hadn't written anything serious since college. But that article, that one blog post, had just been me pouring out the rage and pain into words. I thought maybe 20 people would read it. 6 weeks later, I signed a contract. The book would be called Enjoy the Silence. It didn't take long before Mark found out about the book. He sent me an email titled, "So this is who you are now." The entire message was one paragraph. "You've lied, stolen, and now you're going to make money off humiliating me? You'll regret this. I'll sue you for defamation."
I didn't respond.
I forwarded the email to my publisher and my lawyer. They both said the same thing. Let him try. The book was memoir style, but names were changed. Dates blurred. We had everything documented. And if he wanted to drag it into court, we'd welcome it. Everything would become public. Everything. He didn't sue. 2 months before the book hit shelves, I got a message on my bookstore's contact form. It was from Lily. But this time it wasn't threats. It wasn't hate.
She apologized.
She said Mark had been cheating on her too, with another girl from his office. 24, just graduated. He'd been telling her the same lies he told me. She said she was pregnant when she found out. But she miscarried 2 weeks later, alone in an ER while he was with a new girl. That broke her. She said she finally saw him for who he was. I didn't reply. I didn't have the heart. But I saved the message. The day my book hit #1 on the local bestseller list, I was closing up shop when I saw a shadow in the window. It was him.
Mark.
He looked thinner. Hair more gray than I remembered. He wasn't wearing his usual pressed button-down. Just a faded hoodie and jeans. He looked small. He stood in the doorway like he didn't know if he should come in. I didn't say anything. Just watched. He stepped inside. Quiet. Careful. "I read the book," he said. "All of it." I said nothing. "You made me the villain." "You made yourself the villain," I said. "I just wrote it down." He looked around at the shelves. "This place, it's nice." "I know. I lost everything," he said. "Lily."
My job.
"My savings. Even my car got repossessed. I've got nothing left." "Sounds like peace and quiet," I said. "Didn't you always want that?" He looked at me like he wanted to say something else. But then he turned and walked out. Didn't look back. 2 weeks later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. Later, I listened. It was someone from Netflix. They wanted to option Enjoy the Silence. Not just a movie. A limited series. They said it had real bite, modern drama with emotional weight, and that it felt deeply personal. I stared at my phone for 10 full minutes. They sent a formal offer by email. They'd pay for the rights, give me final script approval, and wanted to meet in person in Atlanta. I drove down for the meeting and sat across from 3 producers who had all read the manuscript twice. They asked me if I'd be willing to go on camera for interviews, promo, maybe even be a consultant on set. I said I'd think about it. When word got out that a streaming series was happening, everything changed again. Somehow Mark got wind of it. Probably through the court records, or maybe even Lily, I don't know. But he showed up again. Not at the store. This time, he followed me from work to my apartment. Parked across the street. I saw him in the mirror as I unlocked my door. I turned and walked right over to his car. "What are you doing here?" I said. "I just want to talk. You don't get to follow me." He got out slowly, like he was trying to seem harmless. "I lost my job," he said. "People at the firm read the book.
They knew it was me.
Even with the fake names. Clients left. My boss said I was a liability. That's not my problem. I get that. I do. But please, can we just talk?" I shook my head. I said what I needed to say in the book. "You already told me once that I was a nag. That I was old. That she was better."
He looked down.
I was an idiot. I know. He opened his mouth to say something else, but I turned and walked back into my apartment. I called the cops. Filed a report. They gave him a formal warning to stay away. A few days later, I got a call from his sister, Dana. We hadn't spoken in years. Not since a Christmas Eve fight in 2016 when Mark blew up over his mother's will. She told me something I wasn't expecting. Mark's dad had passed away. Quietly. In his sleep. A stroke. But before he died, he wrote me a letter. Dana found it in his things and thought I deserved to see it. She mailed it. The letter was short. Honest. It said he was sorry. That he always admired how I held the family together, especially when Mark didn't. "I saw what he became," he wrote. "And I know you deserved better. Don't let him ruin what's next. Don't let his silence become yours." I cried reading it. First time I cried in over a year. The series was greenlit. The casting was announced. A well-known actress was picked to play me. She reached out, asked if we could meet.
She wanted to get it right.
We sat in the bookstore, drinking coffee. She asked about the little things, how I held my coffee cup, how I walked when I was nervous, what I was thinking the night I found the phone. She asked about the dog, about the car ride, about the smell of our bedroom. She wanted all of it. I gave it to her. They flew me out to the premiere a year later. Red carpet, flashing lights, the whole thing. My hands shook the whole night, but I held it together. The crowd gave the first episode a standing ovation. But that wasn't the twist. The twist was Mark showed up. He wasn't invited, but he found a way in. He stood across the lobby in a worn suit, just watching. When our eyes met, I felt nothing. Not hate. Not sadness. Just nothing. He mouthed, "I'm sorry." I nodded. Then I turned and walked into the screening room. 2 days after the premiere, I got an email from a local reporter in Columbus.
They wanted to do a follow-up piece on me.
Said the show was a hit, and people were curious about the real woman behind the story. I agreed. I thought it might help promote the bookstore. But the next morning, another email came. This one wasn't from a journalist. It was from Mark. Subject line: "You win." He wrote 4 paragraphs. The first was full of guilt, how he ruined everything, how he wished he could take it back. The second was angry. He said I made him into a joke, that I humiliated him, that I was just as cruel as he ever was. The third was strange. He mentioned his dad's letter, said it messed with his head. Said he felt like he had nothing to live for. The last paragraph made my heart stop. "I hope you enjoy the silence now. I finally understand what it means." I called Dana. She rushed over to check on him. She found him in his garage. He was still alive, barely. She called 911 in time. He survived. But he lost everything else. the house, the licenses, even his name. After the attempt, he was placed under psychiatric hold. Then moved to a halfway house. He couldn't work in finance again. He started showing up to small bookstores around Ohio, asking if they had Enjoy the Silence in stock. Some called the police. A year passed. The show won 2 awards. The book stayed on bestseller lists. I moved into a better place. Expanded the bookstore. Took Max on long hikes through the Blue Ridge Mountains. I was okay. Until I got the final message. A typed letter, no return address. It was from Mark. He said he had nothing left, that he was going to disappear. Not in a tragic way. Just vanish. No more court battles. No more drama. He just wanted to say goodbye. The letter ended with, I was never silent. I was just empty. You were right to leave me. I hope you find someone better, someone who deserves your peace.
Goodbye.
I read it twice. Then I burned it. I didn't write a second book. I didn't need to. But I did speak once more at a local women's group in Asheville. They asked me to share my story. When I finished, a woman in the back stood up and said, How did you stay strong? And I told her the truth. I wasn't. I broke. I wanted revenge more than healing. I wanted him to hurt.
And he did.
But I don't feel proud of that. There was silence in the room. But I don't regret it either, I said. He built the fire. I just stepped away from it. The last time I saw Mark was in a dream. He was sitting in our old kitchen, holding the second phone, looking confused. I walked past him and out the front door. And this time, I didn't leave a note. I just took the silence with me.